Hey guys. This is part 2 of What If Naruto has Byakugan and Emotionless. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 8 Debrief. Team 7 re-entered the village after the trek back from the wave country. The clouds sat heavy and gray in the sky, the air heavy and thick with the promise of rain to come. Kakashi lazily dismissed the team as he headed off to debrief the mission. As he wandered off towards the tower, his team decided what to do. Sakura decided that now was as good a time as any. Sasuke-kun, do you want to get something to eat? Not really. I'm going home. Want me to come with you? You live in the other direction, don't bother. Oh, okay. She looked around for her other teammate, whom she had no doubt had been building for his own attempt at asking her for the same. She was surprised to see that he had gone entirely. It was dark by the time Kakashi was going through the final debriefing steps in the Hokage's office. The clouds from earlier had thickened and burst, and the rain fell freely onto the town below. Fat drops splashed off concrete and wood, soaking into the ground, turning dirt into thick muddy paste. Civilians scurried in the dark, moving quickly from cover to cover as they carried out whatever errands they had to do. Kakashi looked out as the Hokage read his report. He envied the people sometimes. Easier lives, less risk of death, all the time in the world to enjoy books. The report was fairly standard, as far as C-rank missions that got bumped up to A rank went. Kakashi was a ninja of A rank, possibly verging on S rank in the books. He was capable of completing such missions on his own. His report was entirely from his perspective, excluding a small paragraph at the bottom of the page about the performance of his team. So Kakashi, and I quote, "Team performed adequately in combat, subduing a ninja of superior skill by use of tactics and persistence." Interesting way of putting it. It would be remiss of me not to question further the role of your team. I might just use this opportunity to ask about their progress, Kakashi sighed. This was the bit he hadn't been looking forward to. This was the bit where he had to actually think about things. What kind of ninja did they subdue? Who subdued them? How? What jutsu were they able to employ? In the initial engagement, they acted together to get me out of a water prison jutsu at short notice, evading Zabuza before killing his water clone. During the second engagement, I didn't see the fight due to my preoccupation with the swordsman of the mist. From my knowledge of the assailant, they were quick and used ice release jutsu. I thought the entire clan was dead. They weren't. They might be now. Regardless, surely you got a report from the team? I did. Sakura was forthcoming with her version of the battle, and she guarded the bridge builder against all threats admirably whilst her teammates engaged the enemy. Her vision of the battle was obscured, but she saw the outcome, which I noted down in the report. Indeed. Your other genin were too wounded after the battle to give me their account. I never got round to it, the right moment never came up. I had to help rescue an old lady from. I see. Unfortunate. It is. I think that concludes the debrief. The team is doing well. Kakashi got up and made his way towards the door. The Hokage put down his pipe, tipping the ash into the tray on his desk before he looked back at Kakashi. It does, except for one more matter, which is the fact that I have another report about this mission still to go through. With Naruto. And since he heard your report, it's only fair that you hear his, don't you think? Kakashi shut the door and sat back down. Hiruzen examined him. He looked tired. He looked out of it. Come out, Naruto. I know you're in the curtains. He duly detached himself from the shadows of the fabric and came to stand in front of the desk. The Hokage motioned to the second chair in his office. Sit down, Naruto. May I stand? Yes, but you'd probably be more comfortable if you sat. He remained standing, a dark shadow in a room that the Hokage suddenly noticed was quite dark. He reached for the light switch under his desk, a useful bit of installation he kept ready if he wished to turn it off without getting up. It did not function as intended. Naruto, did you break the ceiling light? Yes. I don't like bright lights when it's night. You really shouldn't do that. Apologies. Anyway, you are both frustrating. One of you for your laziness, the other for his sheer lack of appreciation for normal human boundaries and etiquette. Naruto, do you have a written report? No. The Hokage relit his pipe. It was going to be a long night. He reached into the small hidden drawer that contained a much stronger breed of tobacco that he knew was bad for him. But it was going to be necessary. He lit it, and enjoyed the hit of the stronger flavor before blowing smoke. It wasn't like he was going to live forever anyway. You do know a written report is required. Given I am off the records and without rank, it would not fit into the filing system. I do not wish to appear beyond the absolute necessity. Tough. Your previous employment may not have required it, but I do. Write it for me as soon as possible, please. In the meantime, give it verbally, and since I know most of what happened, I'll ask you directly. What activities did you undergo during the mission from your arrival? Naruto couldn't be seen to move, but noise came out from under the hood. With only the light from his desk, the Hokage couldn't even see his chin under the hood to give indication of talking. He definitely needed more lights as backup. It was a little unnerving when you could see nothing but darkness under the hood. I arrived and was given a briefing by Kakashi Taicho. Taicho? He was effectively captain of multiple squads for this mission. Fair enough. Continue. I was given orders to protect the bridge builder and the team, and otherwise infiltrate Gato's base as a secondary objective if I could. Hiruzen turned to Kakashi. You ordered him to take out Gato? You do realize that his company, though doubtless corrupt, had a strong share in Konoha's merchant quarter? If that share falls into the wrong hands, Konoha could be crippled economically, even if most of our income is derived from missions and shinobi work. I thought it might help our mission. If anything, I didn't expect him to be able to. Okay. What happened next? From the time between arrival and the fight, I either protected the team or scouted Gato's base. On one occasion I encountered Zabuza's associate Haku, whom I was unable to prevent from gathering medical supplies due to one of his team being held hostage in his sleep. Hiruzen didn't even look surprised when he turned to Kakashi. How does that ever happen? He doesn't get on well with Sasuke to start with, and the conversation at one stage ran over a sensitive topic of conversation that set him off. He left and ran out into the forest, returning the next morning. You didn't talk to him? He seemed okay. Alright, continued Naruto. He had trained vigorously, excessively actually. Then slept through exhaustion. He survived the encounter. Haku's behavior was odd. How? He didn't kill him in his sleep instantly like I would have. Oh. Continue? After that incident, I worked out Gato's compound and had formulated a plan to kill him. However, the attack happened before I could enact it. I brought warning to Kakashi, allowing him to intercept and engage Zabuza alone whilst his genin attempted to take on Haku. Attempted? Haku used an imprisoning dome of ice mirrors which he could shift between quickly, along with Senbon to attack the two genin. Interesting. How were they doing before you arrived? The Uchiha had awakened his Sharingan, and was faring better, but both of them were not coping well with the situation. Neither of them had a plan to attack and were defending but taking damage. I estimate they had another 5 minutes at best before they were disabled. Your assessment then? Either Kakashi kills Zabuza and then protects the builder from Haku, or Haku wins first and the genin and bridge builder dies. The third genin, Sakura, yes? She could have stalled Haku for enough time for Kakashi to deal with Zabuza? No. She would have died without striking a blow. A bleak assessment. I only make assessments I think are accurate. Hiruzen saw Kakashi shrink a little further back into his chair, a pained sigh escaping him. Okay, so you intervened? Yes, I entered the dome and applied a genjutsu to Haku. I believe that he could not remove the genjutsu without disrupting his own technique. That's a significant gamble, Naruto. It was the quickest option I could use. I had backup plans to use, but they were less favorable. Your genjutsu? A variant of my shadow-enhancing technique. I flooded the dome with shadow to his mind such that he was blinded. After quieting the genin, I considered my options. I believed that the genin were too injured to continue fighting, so asked the more injured one to evacuate through gaps between the ice mirrors. Unfortunately, he made noise next to the mirror, and Haku moved to attack him directly. I predicted his attack and shot him as he appeared from the mirror. Unfortunately, his attack was completed and the genin took a direct salvo of 10 Senbon. However, he survived and Haku was dead. Kakashi coughed. You wish to interject, Kakashi? I'm finding Naruto's account quite informative as to the combat that took place. A bit less technical than your fight but compelling. I wish to suggest that Naruto isn't telling his part correctly. That got a raised eyebrow. I suggest that Naruto used him as bait. That is actually quite a serious accusation. Did you use him as bait, Naruto? I did not. I wanted him and the other to escape such that I could engage Haku better alone. I don't work well with others, but you know how others might react to situations? Mostly. Other people sometimes make mistakes, but usually are predictable. But you refute using him as bait? Yes. Well, Kakashi, he denies your accusation. Why do you make such an assertion? Kakashi didn't flinch from the tone of voice. Gut feeling. It just seems like expecting an injured genin to stealth his way out is a poor play I wouldn't expect Naruto to call. Very clever, Kakashi, cloaking your criticism with a compliment as you might for any other person, but you mistake Naruto for someone who will pick that up. Naruto continued not to show any signs. I made the right call. Admit that you used him as bait. Admit you made the mistake, even if it did end up working out. I did not use him as bait. The Hokage held up a hand. Regardless, let's put that aside for now. Now Naruto, Kakashi's report states you then nearly killed the client and infiltrated Gato's base. I'd like to hear about that. After finishing my fight, I moved to assist Kakashi, but he finished his fight just as I got there. Gato arrived with at least 100 men. Kakashi was tired, his genin were not combat ready, and the client was vulnerable. I worked out a possible plan, given that Gato was unaware that Haku was dead, and enacted it without delay. That plan being to assault the client, nearly kill him, and distract Gato? It was also to prevent further combat, which heavily favored our enemies. Instead, I balanced the risks against the potential rewards for my various possible actions, and enacted the most favorable outcome. That's remarkably clear thinking for someone of your age and experience, especially with the given threat. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Kakashi merely shrugged. Now, when you infiltrated Gato's compound, I sat through their victory feast, before Gato invited me back into his private chambers. I believe he thought Haku was a girl, and started trying to undress me. He what? Tried to undress me, I believe with a view towards reproductive actions taking place. There was silence. Kakashi broke it, his voice little more than a growl. Bastard, agreed Kakashi, such men should not be allowed to live. Then again, should we have expected anything more? What happened next? Once he had committed too far to the action, I unhinged and killed him with a blow to the throat using my tanto. It felt right, in a strange way. Strange how? Like I was invulnerable. I know that feeling well, Naruto. Kakashi nodded in agreement. But it still ends up feeling hollow after a while, doesn't it, Hokage-sama? Usually. Naruto took in what the older men were saying. He did slightly understand, but he was debriefing. Now was not the time to consider such things. I then used the idea that someone had killed Gato to spread chaos in the camp using another two henge forms. When I left, the compound was in chaos. I then returned to the village to report to Kakashi-sensei. The Hokage reloaded his pipe with another thick wad of the strong stuff. So overall, you nearly got a teammate killed and nearly killed the client, and used a risky and I assume improvised series of events to complete your objectives. You also caused collateral damage to the shipyards, killed a prominent businessman, and caused nearly 200 hired bandits to start a civil war in their camp. That is one way of putting it. I did what was necessary to complete the mission. The Hokage struggled to find the right words. Naruto had completed the mission in a totally unorthodox manner, probably stepping over lines he would never have his regular forces think of crossing, but he had been successful. So Danzo, this is how you have trained him. Complete the mission at all costs, as well as possible. In the end, he decided a chat with the wily bastard was in order, well, more in order than before. Well, you completed the mission, and have likely rid of the world of a man who could later have been an issue. A couple more questions though. What did you make of the genin on the team? Have they advanced since the test you observed in your first mission? The Uchiha is the most similar to me, and has awakened his Sharingan. However, he didn't have a plan for Haku's attacks. The other genin trains hard, but is only average at best. The girl should be dead, or killed out of mercy before she actually has to go into a real fight. The Hokage looked at Kakashi to see his expression. He was surprised to see that Kakashi was merely slumping into his chair, not offering any defiance. What jutsu could they use? I saw them use no gen or ninjutsu. They know tree walking, but honestly have no other appreciable skills that I saw. Interesting, you are dismissed, Naruto. Remember that written report. Naruto was gone in an instant, no doubt moving along the rooftops to wherever he went. He turned back to Kakashi. The man looked tired, slumped in the chair, his hands gripping the armrests loosely. Kakashi, your team is? My team is bad. Permission to speak bluntly? Given. Of my current team, I don't know if I know what to do with any of them. One is average, bland. He has the commitment, but he's bland and has nothing special about him yet. He has the one technique, but it's difficult to master, and since the only other known practitioner is dead, I can't help him. One is an obsessed fangirl, and Naruto did get it right. She should probably not be a ninja unless she takes it more seriously. The other is the worst though. I thought Sasuke was the best of his class? All reports show that he has good skills in all areas. He is the most like Naruto. Only the differences are stark. Naruto is good, but he's not arrogant. He just has no idea how other people work. Sasuke is arrogant. He's good, but he's arrogant. Naruto can't work with a team because he has no idea about emotion. Sasuke simply refuses to believe anyone else is worth working with. They passed your test though. True, But I suspect Sasuke only went with it because he had to, and Sakura because she's a fangirl. She has potential, but I fear I'd need to brainwash her to unlock it. It gets worse. When Naruto arrived, I honestly preferred working with him. Despite his lack of knowledge of people and ruthless streak, he's a good ninja. A very good ninja. He will likely continue to surpass everyone his age. I wish I was his sensei and not that of my team. The Hokage stroked his beard. He had seen a lot of ninjas whom the pressure was getting to. He'd seen newly promoted Chunin break down because someone had died on their first or second mission. He'd seen Jonin who just stopped because of things they'd seen. He'd seen people who had lost loved ones. He had lost loved ones, and now he was seeing one of his elite break down over his team. One of his most fearless and brilliant shinobi struggling to cope with the challenge of his team. He'd had a team once, there'd been problems, but he'd managed. Mostly. They'd all become legends by the time one of them went off the rails beyond redemption. I could always transfer you off sensei duty. Move you to be Naruto's sensei permanently. He's currently without one, and will need training to advance. You could? I am the Hokage. Unless it bothers the civilians directly, I can do whatever I want. Shinobi matters are my job. But would you? No. You need to persevere here, Kakashi. If you really want to train Naruto, then arrange it yourself. However, I will not allow you to simply abandon your current team. Keep training them, and train them better because currently it's not going well. Go home and sleep, Kakashi. You look like you need it. One last thing? Of course. There always seems to be. Do you think Naruto used one of my team as bait? Maybe. The thought definitely crossed his mind. Still though, I couldn't tell you for sure. Perhaps one of my TNI people could. If he did, it needs catching early. Kakashi nodded and made his way out slowly, book rising into his hands magically to cover what parts of his face could not be seen. Just before he left, he turned back one last time. Oh. Naruto might make a good addition to TNI now that you mention it. He got through the first two excuses. That's more than most people do. The door clicked behind him as he left. There were a few brief moments of silence where Hiruzen stared out of the window into the city. The rain had mostly stopped, and the clouds had broken just enough that the pale sliver of a moon shone through. He looked out as he heard the footsteps of his final appointment coming in. He didn't really hear them. He knew the person walking was too careful to make noise unnecessarily. There was a slight rustle as they took their seat. An interesting turn of events, Hiruzen. It seems Team 7's mission to the wave ended up killing Gato as a side product. My sources suggest his criminal empire is crumbling in all the other elemental nations. Of course, my agents have moved to capitalize, and have seized as much as they can. Naturally, this will work its way into Konoha in the usual way. Money into the hands of people, treasures as bribes and scrolls into obscure sections of the library? Of course. I still think it was one of my finest bits of work to use the library as a place to drop off captured jutsu scrolls and the like. No one ever thinks to wonder where they came from. The saddened silence. Hiruzen reached for another wad of the rich tobacco. I hear you sent Naruto along to them as backup. He did well, I take it? Apparently. Kakashi was impressed, you know. But it's not all good. He doesn't get along with others, does he? Well, the full list of his interactions with the other genin lead to one of them nearly dying, and another of them trying to hurt him before he restrained her. She's lucky then. Lucky? Judging by her profile, and the report's details of her actions, it sounds like Naruto could very quickly have killed her if he had wanted to. In fact, his instinct would have been to. Like he did for Zabuza's associate. Like he did with Gato and his thugs. He made 2 direct kills in this mission, and performed actions that lead to a further 100 at least if our reports are accurate. Children his age should not do that. Most genin don't make their first full kills until they reach Chunin level where the stakes are raised. Naruto isn't a child. He's a shinobi. An assassin. He's human. He's a weapon. Even without the use of his asset, he's a weapon. Do not mention the asset. It is his curse. It is why I gave him to you, even if I forbade you from teaching him to use it. He could be more. Imagine it. He sneaks in and unleashes a sudden hell on his foes. Imagine any foes suddenly having him appear and go off like a million explosive tags. No. He will not be a bomb. The air was thick with the intent of both men. They looked each other in the eye for a long moment before it began to diffuse. Danzo spoke first. I know. He's your soldier to command now. You admit he is good. Better than any of your common genin and most of your chunin. At what he does he is an A-rank ninja. But if he was caught, he's no better than a decent genin as a normal shinobi. He does what he does well. I suspect he'll keep doing so. There was a moment of silence. The Hokage paused for a moment, and then clapped his hands together gently. You knew what was going to happen. How long? Since Gato got his first tendrils of power into Wave. What manipulations did you enact? A few subtle ones. My operatives might have seeded Tizuna with the idea of a bridge, and ensured that Gato didn't try to destroy it directly until Konoha Shinobi could make it there. From there, I knew Naruto could get in. Was Gato that much of a threat? He might have been rich, but Konoha could have squashed him with some ease had he got out of hand. He's a worm. A parasite. Eventually he would have gained enough money to catch the ears of the daimyo. Money buys influence. Eventually we would have found him holding a larger stake in our futures, making us a target. Better to kill the parasite before it grows. Nip it in the bud, so to speak. Plus, if he ever came to dislike us, the consequences would be dire. We have enemies Hiruzen, hidden enemies who would see this village destroyed. Ironic that the root is strangling the flowers of that plant. Your mastery of the metaphorical is as sharp as ever. Your appreciation of the practical is as well. Still, did you really think Naruto would be the one to do what you needed? Did you really plan this from when Gato first entered the scene as a possible threat? Yes. One day I hope Naruto does the same. He has a gift for the subtle, even if he doesn't know its full extent yet. You see him as a successor? Leadership is in his blood. There was a thoughtful pause before both men looked out over the dark city. Chapter 9, Field Trip. Sometime later, the team shifted uncomfortably in the standard uniform for Konoha Shinobi. Although variations on the general outfit of dark blue body glove and green vest, most shinobi tended to abandon those after the first couple of years. After all, sometimes those flashy variations got people killed. Friends and teammates too. The standard didn't get you paid a lot of attention, and was thus better at keeping you alive. It was pretty well designed as well, useful pockets and padding in just the right places, honed by years of shinobi making clever adjustments and passing them around. Not that this team was used to the standard uniform. This was a team that spent most of its time in the tight, faceless gray of the torture and interrogation wing of the shinobi forces. They were the ones who loved the dark rooms and the indiscriminate noises, the surgical precision of their job, which is why they didn't like the standard uniform. It wasn't right for interrogation, and the fatigues were stiff and unusual. Effective, but not worn in, and altogether too colorful. This mission was a fairly critical one. That was why they were going out to interrogate outside Konoha, as opposed to in their dark chambers, where unimaginable horror could be threatened to open a subject up. A thinker, given enough time, can crack someone. Anyone, being out in the sunlight, with a time limit? Much less welcoming. It needed a master. They snapped to attention as their master approached. Standing at an imposing height, face marked by twin scars, Ibiki Marino was intimidating. His face bore a stern expression that unsettled people, as if he was staring through them, into their soul. Popular rumor that the official sources never truly denied was that he could break a man just by looking at him. Right now, they were not looking because he was in a bad mood. There was no obvious tell, but the fact his fist had crumpled and destroyed the note he had been holding was a good indicator. Little shreds of paper blew out behind him like a comet trail as he walked towards them. One of them found a bit of courage. So when are we going, boss? As soon as the other two charges show up. One I did not expect to be here on time, the other. The fist clenched a little tighter, and some last fragments of paper scattered on the breeze. There were a few moments of terrified silence before a small commotion from a nearby street. Here's charge number 1. The figure skidded around the corner, trench coat flapping as it turned. The figure bounced off a couple of civilians, then a wall. Then they skidded to a halt in front of Ibiki. Sorry, Scarface, there was a sale and I had to try and get another stick in. Really, Anko? Really? The figure tossed the stick which had previously been covered by the sweet treat over her shoulder carelessly. All right, let's go. You're not last to arrive, Anko. We have a special team member joining us. Oh, who is it? The figure opened his fist to try and read the note. The few crumpled remains yielded nothing for the master interrogator. Someone called Naruto. Apparently he's a stealthy one. Is he cute? Is that all you think about? I can wonder. Ibiki sighed. If this Naruto was any later he would break him when the mission was over. He turned towards the gate when there was a surprised yelp from the two guards. How did you get in here? He scattered the cards. Ibiki effortlessly tuned out the idiot guards and took in the figure that now stood in the gateway. His brain analyzed the figure and got very little. Loose black cloak that hid everything that wasn't black. A bulge at the back where weapons sat was all he could get. Ah well, you weren't a master interrogator if you didn't have some swagger. He walked up to the figure and towered over it. You're Naruto? Yes, you're late. I arrived at the gate 2 hours ago. You didn't reveal yourself to me until now. I wish to know more about my teammates. Lord Hokage tells me I should get to know people better. You do that by talking to them face to face, not by spying. I'm not good at that. PFFF. Why did he send you with me? I don't know. Despite the figure's appearance, Ibiki could just tell that wasn't entirely true. He decided to press. I think you do. Show me your face. No. Show me your head. The team of TNI interrogators watched the exchange with awe. Their common consensus was that this Naruto was going to suffer badly. And that he had balls of steel. Huge balls. I am your team leader. Do as I say. I believe I do not have to reveal personal secrets unless they are mission critical. Yes, but I can extract them. I have seen Kakashi's face. To his credit, Ibiki didn't react on the outside. Which is more than can be said for his colleagues. Internally, he was seething. He hadn't seen it, despite numerous efforts, and nearly kidnapping the man at one stage. How? I won't say. Ibiki decided he would crack him later. Right now they had a mission. You know what our mission is? Yes. Your role? Infiltration and distraction whilst extraction is performed. Define extraction. Removal of target information, or persons holding target information. Did you remember your headband like a good boy? No. Because the mission documents declared this mission sensitive and hence headbands were to be dispensed with. One of the Chunin spluttered slightly as he remembered what he had remembered to bring. Good, let's move. Try to keep up, shorty. I will Scarface. Anko burst out laughing, unable to hold it in anymore. Ibiki, I like this kid already. You are a kid, right? You can show the sexy Anko-chan your face if you want to. Naruto merely shrugged. Anko licked her lips. Even if he was a kid, he was interesting. Very interesting. She would enjoy this time immensely. The team halted as night began to fall. Traveling at night was possible, but somewhat discouraged. Bandits got more courageous at night, fueled by the extra cover of darkness, and anything they'd been drinking. The Chunin in the team began to set a fire as Ibiki sat in meditation. Anko was off killing something, having been deprived of said pleasure during the day. From the undergrowth, there was an anguished squeal and the sound of a knife doing some work. Look what I found! They stared at the boar's carcass that she carried nonchalantly in both arms, cradling the surprisingly undamaged corpse in her arms. The only signs of injury were a couple of small marks in its neck, and a thin line across the throat. Naruto looked at the corpse and found himself warming to her a bit. The cut was clean, and aside from letting the pig make noise, she had killed it efficiently and without fuss. She didn't seem to mind the cold, or the blood that slightly stained her coat. The Chunin set about cooking the carcass. Anko wiped off the blood and leapt up into the tree where Naruto was sheltering. He didn't turn, keeping himself hidden in the dark shadows. I wonder. What's under your hood? My face. Like anyone else. No need to be rude to Anko-chan. I would like to see your face. She licked her lips in an odd fashion, but then again most people had odd habits. Do you need to? Well, no. But then I'll never know how cute you are. You've got the dark part down, but not the tall or handsome, as far as I know. Why do you want tall, dark, and handsome? It's a saying. What does it mean? You don't know? What are you? A ghost. You are clearly not. Tell me then, Naruto. Who are you? Whilst she talked, she idly played with her hands. Using his Byakugan, Naruto could see the hand signs subtly woven in by the focusing of chakra. This allowed him to grab the snake that tried to bite him a moment later. I'm an assassin, I'm 12 years old, and I don't understand people. He tightened his grip on the snake until it poofed away in smoke. You mean it? He wasn't even venomous. He was only meant to distract you. Why? So I can take off your hood. Oh, Naruto prepared for the next jutsu, and suddenly found himself bound up in snakes. He didn't bother to resist. No struggling? No point, I can't break the hold. So if this happened to you on a mission, you'd just let them kill you? Well, not exactly. But yes. She pulled back the hood and retracted the snakes. You are an odd one. Even by my books. Although, you do have the cute part down, perhaps handsome later. Even if you are too young for me. Naruto became acutely aware of how she was leaning towards him with her arms pressing her chest inwards. He found himself suddenly unable to look away from the pleasant sight it created. He had no idea why it was pleasant, but the shape was. No, it wasn't that, it was something else. Ooh, do you like that view, Darky-kun? Who is Darky-kun, you silly? It's a nickname. Something I call you because it's like you. Oh. Like a mission name or a code name. Yes, but it's more friendly. It's something that friends give each other. I don't have friends. Seriously, what are you? Why do people keep asking me that? Anko studied him carefully. He wasn't lying. The question was genuine, the confusion real. She realized suddenly that this was a boy who hadn't had a normal childhood. Someone who was in some ways just like her. Only she'd become an outcast once she'd been cursed. He was an outcast who had only just discovered other life existed. Her face softened slightly as she sat down on the tree branch opposite him. Naruto watched her body language change, although he didn't fully understand it. Tell me about your childhood, Naruto. I don't know if I'm allowed. Also, why did you stop with the nickname? Because we're alike. Well, a bit. You haven't had friends and you seem to be an outcast. I haven't been cast out of anything. Well, an outcast by choice then, he considered. The appraisal was correct. True. Then tell me what you can about your childhood. Did you have parents? Yes. They are essential to being born. I mean, did you know them? No. I spent my early years in an orphanage. Lord Hokage sometimes checked on me. You too, huh? I was an orphan too. I try not to remember those early years. The food was bad. Anko laughed. Some things never change. She saw his lips twitch from the flat line they had held for the entire time they had talked. What then, Darky-kun? Why am I Darky-kun again? Because we're becoming friends. We are? This is the start of friendship, I think. I'm not big on friends either. I have a problem that means people don't trust me. I don't trust people. She smiled again. Why not? They don't think. I've seen the genin teams my age and they don't think right. Define right for me, Darky-kun. They don't make the logical choice for the mission. They seem to dislike courses of action that lead to harm. We're shinobi. We cause harm. Harm to whom though, Darky-kun? Anyone within the mission parameters who it becomes necessary to cause harm to. I'm an assassin. Killing is my job. Can I pose a question for you? Yes. Right, you're on a mission. One of your teammates has got captured and you have a choice between rescuing them and completing the mission. Which do you choose? The mission. Even if it means they die. If the mission were to be compromised by saving them, then yes. It is likely not eliminating my target would lead to further deaths. Even if you had to watch them die? Yes. Listen to them plead for you to save them? Listen to them scream? Yes. His voice only faltered slightly. Really? Yes. I think. Depends on their relative worth. She was almost shocked by this. Almost. She knew that line of thought far too well. A certain sensei of hers had had a similar line of thought. Sacrifices made using cold logic. Except her old sensei had never cared about feelings and took joy from his malice. The boy before her seemed to be only using logic for his decisions. I've found where your thinking differs, Darky-kun. Where? It would be interesting to know. When people form friendships, teams grow stronger. Eventually, people may have to choose between their friends and the mission. You've worked with Kakashi, right? Yes. He told me those who abandon the mission are trash, but those who abandon their comrades are lower than trash. You understand that more now? So I might have to choose between saving a teammate or a friend or completing the mission? And choosing the mission may be harder because of the friendship? Yes. Other people think with their emotions, which can be good. It can drive people onwards. What drives you to do your missions and get better? Naruto thought. Then he crossed his legs and continued to think. He opened his eyes to find a hand waving in front of his face. You in there, Darky-kun? I don't know. It's what I've always done, huh? I think you'll find out eventually. He didn't respond. She couldn't help but just observe the young man. He wasn't a boy, he definitely wasn't a child. He was mature beyond his years, and if what he said was true, he'd never had a childhood. He was a weapon. He saw himself as a weapon through and through. She felt a deep pang of pity for him, despite herself. He was content, even if he didn't know it. He was everything he wanted to be. She acted on impulse, hugged him. The fact they were sitting on the tree meant that his meant grabbing his shoulders and pulling them into her chest so his head rested on her shoulder meant the motion was quite sudden. Naruto quickly stowed the kunai that his slid into his palm when he realized this wasn't an attack. There was contact, but it was warm and odd. He found himself held close, his arms sticking out awkwardly as he didn't know what to do with them. The entire situation was odd. But it was nice in its way. Anko held him in the hug for a few seconds before sitting back. She realized she had a slight blush on her cheeks, mostly because of the look of confused bewilderment on his face. Then she saw the kunai. Really? You had to stop yourself stabbing me? Naruto's brain fought for coherence as it processed the hug. Yes? What was that? That was a hug. They're what friends give each other when they feel that person needs cheering up. I think. As I said, I'm not big on friends either. Oh. It felt nice. I don't understand it though. She laughed a loud and open laugh. Naruto looked down into the camp, and realized that the three chunin, who were busy cooking something in a large pot, were staring up at the scene. He read their lips as they whispered to one another. Did Anko, the one who... Naruto didn't fully understand the next few words. He was sure he misread them because the words like kunai, handcuffs, and appendix didn't belong in the same sentence as far as he knew, but kept reading. Just hugged Naruto. Hugged. What kind of genjutsu does he know to make her do that willingly? He decided to give them a moment before he called down to them. The only genjutsu I know are to distract and disable opponents, or to hide myself. I don't know any people controlling ones. The TNI specialist decided it was best not to stare and shut up very quickly. Anko smiled. We're going to get on just fine, Darky-kun. Who's your sensei? I don't really have an official one. I think I'm going to seek training from people who could improve my skills. I'd like to know more assassination-style jutsu and techniques. Do you know about poison? Only a little. Do you know someone who can help? She flashed him a smile and stood into an elaborate pose. Darky-kun, the amazing and sexy Anko will become your awesome Anko-sensei. Naruto didn't understand why it had to be so flashy, but hey, he had a new sensei, who had just nearly overbalanced and sat down quickly. Ibiki had been quietly ignoring the conversation the whole time whilst he was meditating. The last outburst had broken his concentration just a little too much. Enough, Anko. You get the second watch tonight, she groaned. The second watch was the worst. First watch and third watch your sleep came in one burst. Second you got 2 lousy, unsatisfactory sleep periods. With the food prepared, the team went to sleep quickly. Naruto stayed sentinel in his tree, eyelids shut, but the Byakugan constantly searching. He left out a breath as he mulled the events of the day over. Friends, are they important? Chapter 10, The Show. Caution. This chapter involves heavily implied torture and implied sexual contact. The author wishes to convey that he does not condone torture in any way, shape, or form, and that he doesn't mind if you skip such scenes. The next morning they advanced. The forest thinned as the team moved out, and soon they were moving through rocky terrain, a mass of steppes covered by a thin layer of mossy grass. The peninsula that was technically outside of the Land of Fire was a relatively minor route from the Land of Water, but a quick one. The terrain made it hard for trade wagons to move across the land, but for small parties of shinobi, or horseback messengers, it was the preferred route. Naruto's cloak took on the mottled texture of the stones and grass, and enjoyed moving from rock to rock. The newer environment gave him a chance to constantly test his path-finding. Rock to rock, shade there, a hollow there. Thin brush. He analyzed the land as he went, moving constantly from place to place in a jinking run. Ibiki called the group to a halt, and they slid into the cover of a small hole under a rock. Right, our information believes that the target will be moving through this region during today. There is a strong chance they will use this road, as it goes through one of the few passes into Iwa's central territories. Our target has vital information which we must obtain for the safety of Konoha. Unfortunately, they have high-profile connections. We have to kidnap and take care of the target's silence out here. If we take too long, they'll send a search party. The plan will be to take out any guards or teammates the target has, subdue the target, and then extract the information. He turned to the trio of Chunin. Ishoshi Yahoo Mago, your job is to prepare this area for the extraction. I'll need more space, and it'll need to be well hidden. Too sweep hidden. They nodded. Anko, Naruto, your job will be the capture. Use whatever tactics you need to, you're both ambush specialists. They nodded. I need to prepare a couple of things for our guest. He smiled. It was a smile that nobody could mistake as a happy one. It was the smile of a man who knows he's going to cause pain and that he's good at it. The smile of someone who enjoys their job. The Chunin set to work, using Doton Jutsu to compact and move the rock and dirt so that a relatively large hole was being created. It was big enough for 4 people to be in comfortably. Not 6 though. He realized that was the point. Make it small and claustrophobic to make it even worse for the target. Ibiki opened a scroll and unsealed what looked like a child's chemistry set. Naruto watched in fascination as several small vials were ready for use. Anko saw his expression change to one of interest and smiled. I take it you didn't expect Ibiki to be a chemist? No. I thought he specialized in psychological and physical torture. Unless he uses that as part of either. It's both. You'll see why. They moved away from the foxhole and sunk into cover near the road. Naruto's cloak allowed him to practically hide in the open. He ran through the hand signals for the basic chameleon jutsu he had known for the better part of 9 years to hide the rest of him. The jutsu was crude, and an experienced ninja would easily see where the illusion frayed around the edges. It was a standard for all academy students, and hence was low power and low chakra dependent. Most ninja forgot it entirely after the academy, moving on to more exciting jutsu. For someone like Naruto, the technique was still little used. He preferred the night and the shadows for his work, but in the daylight it could surprise an unexpected surprise. Anko marveled at how easily he slid into a hiding posture, his body becoming rigid. She tapped him on the shoulder. Yes? It was just loud enough for her to hear. She realized she'd nearly trodden on his bow, hidden next to him within easy reach. I'm going to the high ground to spot better. You seem happy here, so take this. She passed him the radio headset. Useful for communication when a team had to split up. Naruto had never had to use one before. He slid the power and transmitter under his cloak and turned on the mic set. He checked the frequency and waited. The voice slipped into his ear as if she were whispering into his ear. Darky-kun, do you hear me? Yes. Yes, who? Yes, Anko. Yes, Anko what? Yes, Anko Taicho? He heard the sigh down the mic. No, Anko-chan. Oh. There was a crackle as Ibiki's gruff tones made it onto the airwaves. Are you in position? They gave their affirmatives. Good, bring the target in when you've captured her. Aside from the mission documents, that was the first bit of characterization Ibiki had given to the target. A girl from Kiri apparently, who knew some secrets that Konoha needed to know. He'd read the mission documents thoroughly, even the background reading on the land of water. Kiri, it transpired, was in turmoil. The Kage had unleashed great amounts of hurt on his people, and the people had fought back. He'd found, upon some analysis of the material, that there was a definite bias towards the rebels. It was subtle, but the use of certain phrases had triggered the conclusion. Phrases like noble struggle and tough dictatorship were used to describe either side every so often, so even though the account was nominally equal, it was designed to turn the mind towards the rebels. He'd given moments thought as to whether Lord Danzo, or one of his former colleagues had been behind some of the nicer phrasing. Either way, the current Kage was in power, and as they were trading with Konoha, an emissary came every so often. So when the spies had told of an unexpected visit, and discovered documents marked for rice and Suna, suspicions had been raised. Intelligence was something you put your best on. His musings were interrupted by Anko's voice in his ear. So Darky-kun, whilst we wait for our guest, care to learn a little? About what, Anko? Sorry, who? This was silly. Anko-chan, good boy. About whatever you want. He could have sworn that was not a tone of voice used for teaching. He wasn't sure how to respond properly. Ibiki cut in. If you two are going to chit-chat, at least keep it business. No corrupting the poor boy Anko. Ah. You ruined my fun. Teach him about some stuff about poisons. That may at least keep me from just switching this thing off, and maybe give me some inspiration. That last word was loaded. Naruto imagined the man saying it. It didn't fit, and that worried him. A lot about his colleagues worried him. They were even more eccentric than the genin teams, even if they were more focused and experienced. Why are you all so weird? He realized that he'd whispered it to himself as opposed to thought it. A chuckle from Ibiki granted him from the other end. You've really been kept in the dark, haven't you? Yes. I kill from the dark. It was a figure of speech. Oh, Anko's voice became a touch more urgent. Target sighted. 4 guards coming in from the east. Naruto activated his Byakugan and got used to the transition from real-world vision to the odd mixed vision using both eyes simultaneously gave him. The signatures were there, and rising fast. He slid the first bolt into the slot on his bow. The riders got to within bolt range, but he could see the chakra levels were near those of Haku, if not a little higher. This bolt was going to have to come from closer range. They got 10 m closer. He could pick out their formation, the man at the front taking glances left and right as he ran. Scanning for figures. He hadn't seen them. He looked at the other teammates, and surmised their positions in the team. The man at the front had the smallest amount of chakra, and seemed to be the nimblest and most aware. A scout. The 2 middle men were thickly built, and carried weapons. The muscle, the brutes. That meant the one at the back was the leader. Able to see everything and react accordingly. He had to die first. He prepared to fire. First he'd clip one of the grunts, and then hit the leader whilst he was distracted. From there, he could attack the rest. He readied his finger on the grip when Anko's plan started. The scout drew a kunai and sliced at something which rose from the ground towards his leg. It twitched and bit him on his ankle. He yelled, and one of the brutes moved to help him before his weapon was swinging to take out another snake. The leader was looking towards Anko's position. He fired. The bolt went straight into his skull and lodged there, sending a small spray of blood and bone into the air. The thunk attracted the attention of another brute before the second bolt took him in the throat. The scout was down, his face an odd shade of blue. The final brute was still occupied with the sudden mass of snakes. Another bolt placed into his back spun him on his axis before he fell, and the snakes got their shots in. The target was running away as fast as she could, but Naruto could tell she wasn't a ninja. In a flash, Anko had delivered a controlled chop to her neck, before slinging her over a shoulder. She walked towards Naruto's foxhole as he rose up, crossbow still held ready. He had nearly relaxed his aim when he saw the movement behind Anko. Down. Anko obeyed with good haste, and the bolt took the leader in the neck. Somehow the shot to his skull, which still jutted out awkwardly, had not been enough to kill him. Naruto was amazed the man had got up, let alone been about to use a jutsu. Anko looked round. Damn. You are good with that thing. Your snakes are very effective too, thanks. They're my favorite. Could you hide the bodies for me whilst I get this into Ibiki's care? He nodded. He'd had to hide dead bodies before. It happened every so often on his old missions. Sometimes the guards just got in the way of his objective, and then they had to die. He recalled all the occasions where he'd moved a body into a cupboard, or propped it up so it looked asleep. Well, at least until they checked anyway. He recalled the poor maid who had come up onto that rooftop for air, her face caught in a silent scream as he had killed her. He shook his head to clear it of the woman's face. Why was he remembering that now? Then the targets themselves. Most of the time they were killed privately to be discovered later. He recalled with pride getting the kill on a man who thought his toilet had been safe. He had actually made it back to base before anyone had dared to check on him. The woman's silently screaming face came back into his mind, playing itself onto all his victims. He blocked it out, deactivating the Byakugan he realized he still had active. The bodies were easily hidden, there were enough spare rocks around to hide them under, and crevices off the track where nobody would ever look. Ninja using this trail tended to stick to the road. With luck, rain would wash away any remaining blood traces soon enough. He slid his blade across the neck of the scout, who was still burbling gently, his congealed saliva a color it shouldn't have been. He felt it was better that way. After all, he wouldn't want his death dragged out if he was caught. He finished his handiwork and wiped his hands down on the mossy grass before heading back to the hole they had used for cover. It wasn't so much a hole as a chamber. A torture chamber. He'd only briefly seen one from the root cells. A small slit on a door just before it was shut, and the face of a man who looked defiant. He recalled the screams that he'd heard moments later. He watched out of the entrance with his Byakugan to scan for approaching trouble. He wasn't expecting any. He heard the rough slap and the gasp of the woman waking and heard the interrogation. Right, Yukono Yuha, intelligence officer under Mizuki's Yugura, correct? No, I'm just a client of Kiri needing passage into the land of fire for. The pleading voice was cut off by another slap. It was a deliberately loud one, the noise echoing in the chamber. The Chunin skulked menacingly around behind them whilst Anko stood behind Ibiki with a smirk on her face. And I'm the sage himself. We knew who you are. There was a rip of clothing. See the tattoo on your hip? We know what that means, Yukono. Pure blood mark the Mizuki bestows on his followers to say they are free of the bloodline curse. The woman tried to plead again, but another harsh slap cut it off. If you're going to talk, tell us why you're headed to Suna. To the rice country and grass country. Maybe IWA too? The woman's voice was heard again. The pleading act dropped into a serious tone. You think I'll tell you? If I don't reach my destination within 2 days, they'll know. If I don't make it, they'll know who did it. You've already lost. There was the sound of spit and another slap. Oh, she's defiant. Can I have some fun, Ibiki-kun? Can sweet little Anko have some fun with the pretty lady? There was the soft sound of a finger tracing flesh. Get off me, bitch. Aw, not going to let me play nice? I can be nasty if you want to. Now, Anko, not yet. I have a few more persuasive tools to use first. Pass me syringe 1, please. A Chunin dressed in black, he wasn't sure which, passed him a needle. I bet you want to know what this does, don't you? She remained silent, as he stood next to her. This liquid will make you more easily open to suggestion. Very easily open. Try it, dickhead. With pleasure. There was a small grunt of pain as the needle was inserted roughly but expertly. It was tossed aside with a clatter. So, how do you feel now? Silence. Anko, have any suggestions for her? Ooh, Anko-chan thinks she needs a woman's touch. Don't you want that? There was a sound of a zip slowly being undone, and the sound of hands on flesh. There was a feminine moan. Stop, Anko. I think she's enjoying this too much. Oh, I was only just getting started. You bastards. Why do I want more? Maybe we'll give you more if you give us things we need. There was a jangling sound as the figure struggled. Oh, don't struggle. I thought you'd already won? Or maybe you know you're going to talk. You want to talk? The figure cried out in desperation and anger with more jangling. Tell us, and Anko can be nice again. I was discussing treaties. About what you could know, not telling. Anko? With pleasure. He watched the outside, never once turning back as this pattern repeated itself. He didn't know what Anko was doing to the woman, only hearing a dark chuckle from one of the chunin every so often. He surmised it was something pleasurable. Eventually, though, even Anko's touch wasn't bringing them more. So military treaties with the minor nations? Has Kiri fallen so low? Please, no more. No more of her. She has no hold on me. Asim's number 1 has worn off. It was, bring me number 2. What will? This one, arg, this one is going to hurt. For the first couple of minutes, it should just be like a toothache all over. Of course, it gets worse and worse for hours, unless I insert the antidote. And I don't feel like injecting it until I hear what I want to hear. If you make it through that, well then, I could use more traditional, metallic methods. The figure was trying not to make noise as it strained against the cuffs. He realized that he had started watching now, the outside forgotten. The woman's face was slowly contorting in agony. It looked like the maid's face from those years ago. He stared, he couldn't help it. She screamed in pain. The same scream, the same face. He stumbled outside and enjoyed the silence aside from the distant roar of the ocean. He hid, taking up his former position overlooking the road. He forced himself to clear his mind. He wasn't sure how long he had waited. Time was immaterial. But it wasn't long before a figure emerged. The woman looked like nothing had happened, and was soon making her way along the road. He walked back to the chamber to see the team packing up. Ibiki and Anko were chatting as they did so. Definitely some interesting information, no doubt there. I wish I could have used the snakes on her. I had a new little nerve toxin ready and everything. Interesting time ahead. Ah, Naruto is back. Anko rose and swaggered over to him. Did you enjoy the show? I wasn't watching. You saw a little. You turned round when the pain toxin was used. Nasty stuff, some of my favorite work. I don't want to be near that. Good choice. How did you get her on her way again? Oh. We can suppress the memory. Ibiki knows 1 or 2 mind jutsu that he can use to alter the perception. As far as she knows, she never had a team to go with. What about when she makes it home? Oh, we also inserted a toxin in a slow-release pill. Quite interesting stuff actually. It's made of a material that biodegrades in the body, slowly releasing the dose. With luck, it'll go off and make it look like a heart attack. Naruto couldn't help but be impressed. It was subtle, brilliant, and a perfect way of killing some off. Why had he never used toxins in the past? Ibiki finished sealing up his equipment and turned to his team. Good job. Let's get the information home. Chapter 11, Intruder. The debrief was different to any he had been in before. Most of them took place in the open of the missions room, or the open if intimidating presence of the Hokage's office. This was different. The room was dark and cold, a long bare table and Spartan chairs lit by artificial yellow light. The Hokage sat in one of them as he overviewed the report and information. Sitting with him was the Jonin commander who was merely flicking through the information. Naruto watched the man carefully. His entire posture was lazy and laid back. He barely seemed to read the documents in front of him, eyes hidden by the sheaf of notes. He suspected that, like Kakashi, there was more to this man than met the eye. He couldn't help but feel that this was being used to cover something. Silence reigned as Anko, Ibiki and Naruto sat on one side of the table waiting for the response. He had no idea why he was here. He suspected it was less for his input, and more because he was being tested. Or the Hokage had another reason. He did as he did in such situations and waited. Patiently. How hard was she to crack Ibiki? A level 2 case, Hokage-sama. Must have taken an hour or 2 then. Indeed, the dark-haired commander sighed. I still find it troubling you merely assign a level to people's resistance to torture. Why I let Hokage-sama convince me into accepting this job I have no idea. Too troublesome. Especially with reports like these. The shadows on the Hokage's face deepened. Indeed. Why Yagura is doing this is beyond me. I am glad our eyes and ears are open. It is good to know what our allies are doing. Naruto knew that made sense. No sense knowing what your enemies were doing if you didn't know if your allies were going to get in the way first. Still though. The land of rice. Spring. Grass. Minor nations, but dangerous if they ever combined. I don't like this. Especially this close to the exams. We host them this year. Security is tight on such occasions as it is Hiruzen. It would be a fooling time to strike at us from within. True. Be extra vigilant then, Commander. The man nodded before sinking back on his chair, leaning back on it slightly, and lazy posture exemplified when his hands rested behind his neck. Ibiki spoke up. I still sense our target didn't know the whole truth, Hokage-sama. Really? She was carrying no documents, no stamps. Nothing. She was just a mind being sent from person to person. I have a suspicion that her message was not carried simply only by her memory. Your suspicion? Genjutsu. Any attempt to mind skin will have broken it, of course, but I am still nervous of the fact that this means whoever used it will know she was intercepted. That would be less than ideal, Ibiki. It would, although I don't know if any genjutsu that powerful could be held. Not many have that power. Unless they have someone of Kurenai's skill, which seems unlikely. The commander sat back up. That implies there is someone like that on their side, Ibiki. I can only think of a few names, and all of them are troubling. What are our worst case? Orochimaru. The air chilled. Naruto had heard the name before, in short whispers in dark corners. A traitor, and a powerful one at that. Of course, some information could be found by digging around, and Naruto had time to kill. That is highly non-ideal. Although that does give us some good news. We know he's in one of grass, rice, or spring. Dispatch our best to search for signs of his handiwork, Shikaku. The man rose and left. Hopefully this will give us answers. Be on guard. You're all dismissed. Ibiki caught the look in the Hokage's eyes and lingered just a moment. Naruto had gone without any noise, and Anko with quite a bit, shouting something about Dango. He sat back down when he saw the Hokage beckon. Well, he is unusual. But he isn't TNI material. Really? It's not his fit. He's a killer. Anko gave me a description of the fight to take out the guards. He was ruthless. Anko started a slight distraction, and by the time she could get to the guard party, they were mostly dead. He doesn't talk, and it took Anko to get him to open up. And she had to be honest to do so. That could at least be good for Anko. They could be good friends, yes. But even so, Lord Hokage, I wouldn't want him in TNI. He's quick, and smart, and doesn't muck about. But he's not TNI, be clear. What skill does he lack? He doesn't like seeing people in pain. Really? It makes sense. When we were getting the information, we used the stage 2 chemical. The pain serum. Up until that point he had been listening, watching the entrance. Possibly watching us, but I don't think he was. Out of interest, he hides a Byakugan under that eye patch, doesn't he? Tell no one. We've come close enough to that getting revealed already. Kami help me if the Hyuga find out. Quite. For the record, it was the fact you can't be that accurate with a bow with one eye, and it's the only explanation I could think of. Plus it makes sense in determining his uncanny tracking skills. Anyway, you were saying? He turned round when he heard my description. It was honestly the first human thing I'd seen him do. He wasn't looking with his normal view, but the way a normal person would look at someone about to suffer hideous pain. What happened? He paled a little. Hard to tell with the shadowy hood, but he did. He then left the chamber until the interrogation had ended. Quickly. I honestly expected him to throw up. He showed emotion? I'm sure he felt it. But it's just my point. He was okay with the light physical violence, the psychological torture, and if he was looking, Anko's more interesting methods. But not the screaming. He's not TNI material. He would see the pain and kill the person. Did he say anything about it? Nothing. I can tell it bothers him though. He needs to talk to someone. He needs a sensei. But I take it you don't want to lose Anko full time? Not really. She's not usually the sensei type, but she works well with the boy. Only an age. They sat in silence a little more. Hokage-sama, it may be out of place, but who is he? Really? He just shows up with practically ANBU class ass assassination skills. He is mysterious. He is utterly inexperienced in dealing with other people. He can observe them, but not understand them. What is he? Where did he get this training? Where did he get a Byakugan? The old man chuckled wryly. I can't answer all those questions, Ibiki, as you can probably guess. That boy is a hero, even if he barely knows it. He is someone who has nothing but his work and is satisfied. He's both a great tool, but hard to manage properly. He's a secret. You know I hate secrets. You drag them out of people, Ibiki. This is one that needs to remain hidden for the moment. Possibly forever. That dangerous? That dangerous. The interrogator stood up, black coat making his form more imposing than ever in the darkened room. Troubling. I shall ask Anko if she'll give him some training in her free time. Other than that, I can honestly say that boy needs help. Badly. I think he's haunted by something and would rather not have to rip the damn reason from his head. He left the room, footsteps echoing in the corridor as he walked away. Hiruzen rose as well, the Kage robes ruffling as he did so. His mind was filled with concern, but tempered concern. He was the leader of a major village, and having Danzo close meant that some things rubbed off. He had to see opportunity where others saw challenges. And he saw an opportunity. Naruto slipped in through the window of his apartment silently. He looked around in the dark at the bare place. It was odd to think of this place as home. He shrugged his cloak onto a chair and tugged off the top of the tight body glove he wore under it. He could still smell blood on himself. The shower suddenly looked inviting. He shrugged off the remainder of his clothes and stood in the cubicle and ran the water. The warmth felt good, and he could feel the grime washing off him. He couldn't properly see it, of course. He hadn't bothered turning on the lights in his home, he didn't need to. Darkness was more of a home. The warmth of the water was nice. He didn't take long to shower, he just washed off the grime, applied a scentless soap and washed it off before drying himself. He slipped into another body glove set before he heard the noise. Someone was knocking on his door. Someone knew where he lived. He grabbed the tanto from the pile of his equipment and slipped into a shadowy corner, blade held ready. What little light could enter the room illuminated nothing, the blade edge having been blackened to stop light reflecting off it. The voice was muffled through the door. "Hello? Are you in there? I want to talk to you." It was the brown-haired genin Baka. The one from Kakashi's team. "Why was he here?" "I just want to talk. I want to know stuff." Naruto stayed silent. He relaxed the grip on the tanto blade. He wouldn't be killing him. Well, I can always pick the lock. I've done it the other dozen times I've tried to find you." There was the sound of clicking as something thin was inserted into the lock. A few seconds later the lock clicked open. The figure was framed in the dull, yellow artificial light outside as he stood in the doorway. It snuck inside, carefully watching all the corners. Naruto held his breath. He actually found himself wondering if the genin could find him. The figure fumbled on the wall for the light switch. His hand found it. Then his hand noticed the second thing touching it. It was cold and metallic. "Don't push the switch. You're persistent. Why are you here?" The figure tried to turn. "Don't move. I can't kill you, but I think the Hokage would understand if I caused the trespasser some intent. You saved us on that mission." "Thank you?" Naruto considered this. He had never been thanked before. He normally got a congratulations for a successful mission, maybe some recognition of the effects. "Never thank you." He withdrew the blade and put it down next to the rest of his equipment. He pulled the cloak over himself and drew the hood over it, before sliding the door shut as quietly as possible. "You can turn around now." The genin turned. He focused on Naruto. "You really are a ghost. I can barely see you when you're standing still. Can I turn the lights on? This is weird." "No." "Oh. Why not?" "I prefer the dark." "You really are a ghost." "What?" "Sakura-chan said that you said you were a ghost. So I had to try and find you. I'm quite good at it." "You were difficult to find." Naruto stared as the boy rambled. "Well, she didn't know your name, so I couldn't ask anyone. But then I was getting ramen, a really good bowl, and I heard a lady talking about the fact the apartment next door was haunted because the windows kept opening and the shadows were weird, and she swore she sometimes thought someone lived there, and the landlord didn't have a spare key set for it, so it must be haunted and stuff. So I followed them back to where they lived and found your apartment. Then I came here and found you and who are you? Are you really a ghost?" Naruto remained silent. The genin took this as a sign that Naruto was looking at him how Sakura would look at him just before her fist collided with his face. Naruto was in fact stunned that he was able to talk that quickly without breathing. "Oh, of course you're not really a ghost. But the fact you like the dark, no one knows your name, you kill people, you come and go wherever you want, and nobody sees. You are a ghost but not a ghost. I think. Thinking isn't something I'm great at." Naruto continued to stare. The genin realized he was rambling. "Whoops. Sorry. So, about that mission. You tried to get me out of Haku's dome thing." "Why?" "It made sense." "Why?" "Because I thought it would improve our chances of victory." "But why not Sasuke? He was as hurt as me, even if he did have his stupid eyes. I'm as good at blocking with kunai as he is even with them." "He was going to leave after you." "But why? Surely 3 people in the dome is better than 2? It reduces the angles we can defend from. It gives us more people to work out a strategy. It has so many advantages. I work better alone." "Are you sure? I mean, we would have figured out a plan eventually and beaten him, right?" "My plan would have worked." "It did work." "Pardon? You used me as bait, didn't you?" Naruto saw the beginning of tears at the edge of the genin's eyes. "You used me as bait because I was the least useful." "No, you did. Don't lie from behind that hood. Look me in the eyes and tell it to me." Naruto dropped the hood slightly, his single visible eye meeting the genin's own green-gray eyes. "I did not use you as bait. With you and Sasuke out of the dome, I intended to track Haku until I could apply a more deadly genjutsu. When he tried to break it, I would strike. When you were spotted, I killed him as soon as possible. Oh. Did you have to kill him? Yes. He had nearly killed you and Sasuke-san. It was the quickest way to end the fight. You could have ended it without killing him. Yes, but I thought he would finish you if I didn't. You were wrong. You know about people, but you don't know people. The two are the same thing. They are not. Why? Well, one is about knowing stuff about people and the other is knowing different stuff. It's complex, okay? Believe me, I struggle to. Oh, there was silence. Can I see your bow? No. What are you, like you said, a ghost? I kill people. It's my job. I don't like killing. You're a shinobi. It's kill or be killed most of the time. We don't have to kill. There is usually another way. Killing works for me. What do you do when you're not killing? I wait, I sleep, eat. Sometimes wash or go to the toilet. No, I mean. What do you do to relax? To have fun? Do you have any friends? I have a friend. I think. She's okay. What's her name? Is she nice? Anko. I wouldn't call her nice. Why not? She tortures people. Naruto didn't understand why the genin seemed scared by this. Surely he knew that TNI employed hurtful methods. What about fun? I am content with what I do. You're not normal. Why do people keep saying that? I am normal. You guys are weird. Oh wow, you are something. I can't wait to talk to Sakura-chan about this. Tell her where I live and I will silence you, her, and anyone else you tell. What? Ghost. No footprint, no trace. The fact you found me is worrying. I don't use the door. Okay. You are weird. But you're not bad, just not normal. Naruto wasn't sure how to respond. I'll stop by again sometime if you want. I'd like to get to know you better, Ghost. That sounds acceptable. Awesome. New friend Databeo. He found a hand slapped over his mouth before a death whisper entered his ear. Never shout here again. Okay. See you soon then, Ghost. Okay, Baka. He nodded mutely and left the house. Naruto silently made it to the rooftops and watched him move away. Something about the genin intrigued him. He was able to shrug off anything, force himself on despite everything. He wasn't a good ninja, but he had something. He searched his vocabulary for a good word for it. Will seemed to work. He had a strong will. He decided it was probably time to up security in his home. Chapter 12, Problems. The room in the TNI department was quiet, but not the normal quiet that existed in that place. The silence of the damned was more terrifying than the silence of the calm, and this was a calm silence. Anko stood inside the small briefing room. Today she was being a sensei, a proper teacher. Teaching something she loved to someone who would find it useful. Although she had the other mission at the back of her mind. She would be better than her old sensei, she would make her student better. She would never abandon him. Naruto pushed the door open with an expression of annoyance on his face. She smiled. She had read him correctly. He hated doors, even if he wouldn't describe it that way. She could understand why to a degree. Darky-kun, nice of you to make it. Yes, Anko-sensei. Not sure I prefer that or Anko-chan. Mix them up every so often. He nodded. Well, down to business. Right, poison 101. Chemistry. She hefted a large book onto the table. She had expected this to faze him in some way, to impress him and make him stare. He merely nodded. She realized he hadn't expected it to be easy. He wasn't arrogant like most people who are this good this early in their careers. This means you can't just find everything you need to poison someone from animals in nature. Although they also make good poisons, a skilled medic will recognize them. Any ideas as to how you create an animal poison they haven't seen? Make a new animal they haven't met before, or a different breed that produces a different toxin. Yep. This is actually what I do in my spare time. Anyway, as you don't own a variety of toxic animals yet, chemistry is where you are going to find the answer to all your toxic needs for the moment. What do you know about it? Nothing. Excellent. I can teach you my method and hopefully you'll improve it someday. I'm not going to do textbook work here though, you can read in your own time. What I'm going to teach you is how to make them when you have a bit more base knowledge. In the meantime, let's think uses. Killing. You would think that, wouldn't you? Killing is what I do. Okay, I will name different target types, and you will tell me how you could kill them using poisons only. I'll judge. Right, high-ranking citizen at a banquet, you are to target him only. No unnecessary collateral. Infiltrate the kitchens, knock out the food taster, and replace him. After tasting food, add poison to the food. Another way. Use a henge to disguise as a waiter, serve him a special bottle of sake which will poison him. No. Too high of a risk of collateral. Use a poison that will only make people who only drink a smaller amount ill? Somewhat acceptable, still suspect. Another. Infiltrate the serving staff, soak any implements he might use in toxin and let him use them. Ooh, devious. But you're still thinking too directly. How delayed are you going to make this kill? How many parts does the toxin need? The session went on for a few hours, with Anko quizzing Naruto on the uses and some of the subtleties of the poison. She had to admit he was quick, and he had imagination to him. Eventually, she heard the noise. It was faint, but she picked up on it. She kept quizzing. Right, Jonin-level ninja in charge of a small fortification. Death needs to be dramatic and painful for her death to unnerve her forces. Her? Yes. Why painful? Because the screaming upsets people. There it was. He heard it, and for the first time she had seen he had hesitated. In 3 hours, slow-acting poison added to her private stores, assuming she's arrogant enough to have some. Fair enough. You hesitated. I did. I was thinking, and you're lying. Good. Sorry about the background noise. Ibiki has a traitor a few doors down. He likes to play with them. Such is the fate of traitors. A bit of emoting. This is better. The longest I've heard anyone scream is a full 24 hours. Ibiki had a new toy, and they were particularly resilient. He stayed silent. She looked at him closely. His face had changed slightly. It was a slightly different form of emotionless than before, harder. Like he was remembering something. So, have all the kills you've made so far been clean? Or has anyone ever screamed? I'd rather not say, so that's a yes. And it's a bad yes. No wonder Ibiki didn't think he could do this. He doesn't like causing pain. His kills are all so quick he doesn't cause any. He has mercy and he doesn't even know it. Oh. If you want to talk about some of them at some time, I'd love to hear about them. That is if you can tell little Anko-chan. She did her best impression of innocence as she said so. She suspected it wouldn't make any difference, but he was showing signs of emotion. I will. Good, we're just about done for today then. He left, and Anko cursed the fact he was so damn silent. She couldn't tell if he had sped up as he went. He had taken the book though, but sealed it. That was clever. He was both a mystery, and so easy to see. From his reintroduction into the regular forces, the blank slate he could be had begun to be transformed into a personality. But was it a blank slate? She walked down the hallway and went into the next room. She removed the tape from the speaker system before crushing it absent-mindedly. It had been a cruel trick. It was a betrayal of trust that had been forced up her by the mission. The fact it was a self-created mission, but one she had made after a short chat with Ibiki. She was his friend after all. One of the few she had, and possibly the only one he had. If he needed help, and she was becoming sure he did, it was her place to get it to him. She checked the time and swore violently. She had somewhere to be. She rushed to one of the storerooms and grabbed the great fabric roll inside. Time to scare some genin. He had hit the rooftops some hours back and he had just kept moving. Whatever it was about that noise, it brought it back. He'd never had this in the dark. He'd never had this in the dark. He moved on instinct, dark to dark, shadow to shadow, cover to cover in a series of smooth, fluid leaps and bounds. He ran, ignoring the burning in his legs. He leapt, ignoring the pain. He embraced it. He embraced anything that wasn't that noise. Anything that wasn't that face that the scream brought back. Her face was there, locked forever in the scream that he had silenced. His foot hit a wet patch and he slipped slightly as he leapt from a roof. His trajectory was not going to reach the next rooftop. Sparks flew from the soles of his sandals as he slid down the wall, using enough chakra to keep it steady, but not enough to stop him. He pushed off the wall and rolled into the alleyway. Then he heard it again. A scream. A feminine scream. It was close. He ran down the alleyway towards the noise. The crossbow was in his hands on instinct. His Byakugan was active. He saw the figures. One was down, backing away down towards him. Another two stood over it, moving slowly towards it. He fought to keep his emotions in check as he rounded the corner and brought the bow up. The first standing figure died without looking up. The second looked up in time to eat the bolt through the roof of his mouth. The prone figure stopped screaming as Naruto ran over. He heard a different noise. A wet choking sound. He stood over the figure. They looked up as he eclipsed the light and screamed again. He winced at the loud noise until it stopped. Are you all right? The figure was lying very still. He waved a hand in front of her face, when it became apparent that she was unconscious. The Byakugan vision revealed her condition to be stable, and he tried to decide what to do next. Well, she wasn't going anywhere. He checked the bodies of the figures he had killed. They were wearing Konoha headbands, Oh, the word echoed silently in the alley as he considered his next move. He had, without delay, killed 2 of his shinobi comrades who were in the process of attacking an innocent person. That could be tricky to explain. He could take the girl to the hospital, which would mean leaving 2 corpses in an alleyway until he got back, and going into the hospital. That would lead people to ask questions about who he was, or he could wait with an unconscious lady and 2 corpses in an alleyway until somebody turned up. Like an ANBU or another ninja. That would be probably easier to explain, but also have the issue of how long it would take. Then again, he had time. He quietly piled the 2 corpses together and stripped them of their equipment. Wasn't like they'd be needing it, right? He hid in the alley, watching over the situation in case anyone came across it. And waited. Hiruzen rubbed his eyes as the first rays of dawn crept in through the windows of his office. He wasn't normally in this early. Still, he was awake, and his first problem of the day was already unfolding in front of him. The ANBU stood behind their prisoner, although he wasn't entirely sure that that was the right word. Prisoner usually meant they had been forced to come. This one seemed oddly keen. Talon, what is going on? Well, we have 2 dead shinobi, a traumatized civilian woman, and this short ass who refuses to give us anything other than his serial number. At least he knows how to be interrogated then. Very good, Hokage-sama. The 2 shinobi, Oyuka and Oyuba Hogasuri, were both killed by crossbow bolts to the face. The Hokage looked at Naruto, who raised his head to meet the gaze of the older man. The defiance in the eye was there. The look. An attitude. He remained impassive. The kills seemed to have happened during the night, and on a routine patrol at about 4 this morning we came across the scene. The woman was unconscious, technically sleeping, and he was waiting in the shadows. To be honest, we didn't see him until he came out. What did he do then? He admitted, and I quote, "I killed them because they were causing the screaming. Is she all right? She passed out when I tried to see if she was injured or not." He said exactly that? Yes. He resisted the temptation to laugh and bury his head in his hands. His poker face remained true. So you brought him here? We took the woman to the hospital to get her checked out, then brought him here. He did admit to killing 2 Konoha shinobi in cold blood. Blood is kept at an internal temperature of 300 Kelvin. It's usually quite warm. Everyone present stared at Naruto. Cold blood implies it has been away from a heat source for a time. It only got to that state after my attack. The ANBU made a frustrated groaning sound. Seriously, Hokage-sama? Who in the hell is this kid? He quietened the man with a wave of his elderly hand. Has the woman regained her senses? Hare is with her currently, out of uniform of course. He'll bring us his report when she has. And your current hypothesis? Ridiculous. Humor me, Talon. Humor me at this ungodly hour of the morning. The brothers grimly dead were trying something untoward towards the lady, and our little knight is grubby. Black armor shot them both dead from ambush. Oddly enough, they seemed to be unarmed. Really? Yes, Lord Hokage. Naruto, did you steal all of their equipment? The ANBU laughed. Naruto produced a storage scroll he had hidden in his cloak and placed it politely on the desk. They stopped laughing. Hiruzen began to read the contents of the scroll from the characters on the scroll. Really? Yes, Talon. This looks like the standard kit for shinobi of their quality. In fact, he placed his hand down gently and brought out some of the equipment. He tested the edge of a kunai with his finger. It would appear their maintenance was not as good as I would like to hope. Then again, I recall these 2 making it through a particularly poor set of the Chunin exams and were promoted against my better judgment by some idiots impressed with a poorly controlled fireball. He tossed the kunai to Talon, who caught it by the blade. Couldn't cut cheese with this piece of rubbish. Couldn't have put it better myself, Talon. So not the greatest loss we could ever have had I take it. I can think of a few people I'd rather lose. I do hope my name is on it, sir. You never cease to amuse me, Talon. The man straightened, and there was every hint of a beaming smile behind the mask. His companion sighed. Good to hear it, Hokage-sama. So back to your theory? Well, then they were armed, but it ends up the same. He steals their equipment and waits, presumably for several hours with 2 dead bodies and the unconscious lady, then confesses immediately and unequivocally. Is this some kind of elaborate practical joke, sir? Is it Gibbon again? No, it is not Gibbon. He doesn't get people killed. Or he hasn't yet. Anyway, did you ask your charge what happened? He's as short on words as he is on stature, Hokage-sama. He said little, a minuscule amount, even under the magnifying glass of my questioning. Interesting. Well, enough small talk, Talon. Let's see what he has to say on the matter. Shall we hope it isn't a tall tale? Your wordplay is sharp as ever, Hokage-sama. But on a serious note, we could get nothing out of him. He's either needs a whack around the head, or he's shy to the extent he needs help. Well, Naruto. Before he could open his mouth, Talon interrupted. You know who he is. He's a shinobi under my command, Talon. I know all of them. Now be quiet whilst he speaks. Naruto? I was moving along the rooftops when I heard her scream. I went round the corner and killed both at range. When I went to talk to her, she screamed again and passed out. I then waited to be found by anyone who could help. Why didn't you take her immediately to the hospital? There were 2 dead bodies. It would have caused alarm. Talon nodded. He has a point. Why didn't you immediately signal for help? I don't like making noise. Talon chuckled. No, come on Hokage-sama, he's not for real. He sounds like a kid. He looks like a kid. Come on Gibbon, let's drop that henge. Kai, nothing happened. He prodded Naruto. Huh. How much did he hire you for then? You talk too much. The Hokage did his best not to laugh as Talon recoiled. You talk too little, shorty. Your wit doesn't live up to your name? Oh ho, talons are meant to be sharp. The other ANBU and Hiruzen lost the ability to hold it in. You got destroyed there, Talon. Shut up, pig. You'll fry for this later. The ANBU shut up in the presence of his superior. Okay, enough of this. It's too early for this kind of mess. Hair approaches. The masked man came through the doors quickly and quietly. Hair. Report. The woman was much happier talking to a doctor. Thank you very much, Talon. Hey, I wanted answers now. You've delayed this by at least an hour. Just because she was shivering and covered in blood doesn't mean getting a statement was beyond reason. The man sighed. Anyway, she believed she was about to be raped by the 2 gentlemen in question until the black shadow saved her. Unfortunately, she was so terrified by the shadow she passed out again. She's slightly embarrassed and shaken up, but otherwise fine. The Hokage steepled his hands and leant back. Well then, that seems to wrap everything up. The Hogasuri brothers are not to be added to the monument, and to be disposed of as soon as possible. See to it, Talon. Pig. Hair. They chorused their assent, and moved out, sharing a quick joke as they left. Hair's exasperated sigh was cut off by the Hokage shutting the door. Sit down, Naruto-kun, he sat. You killed 2 of my ninja without authority, without permission, and without thought as to the consequences. You did so in the streets of this city, and you did so during a time where security here is somewhat raised by the presence of several foreign shinobi. Naruto had dropped the hood and stared back at him. The defiance was still in his visible eye. But there was something more. I recall warning you about the use of force against your comrades after the incident with Hinata-san. More silence. You killed them without any sort of attempt to capture them, Naruto. Whilst their eventual fate might have been the same, you took a big risk. I had to stop the screaming, but you didn't have to kill to do so. I had to stop the screaming. He looked at the stair. There were the beginnings of tears in his lone, visible eye. Something was definitely wrong. You realize I should almost definitely have you thrown into the cells for such actions? That would be the correct course of action for any other shinobi in your position. I did the right thing. He paused. The defiance was back, strongly now. Naruto held the conviction in his voice. You probably did, but you were lucky. I will have to put you on probation though. You will work with teams for the next 2 months so I can have someone keep an eye on you. Hi, is there anything you would like to talk about? No, he's lying. But I think it's to himself more than me. I'll give him time. You are dismissed. Report at the usual time for your mission. Naruto disappeared from view faster than usual. Talon came back through the doorway and slammed his hand on the desk. I want him for ANBU. Right now. Give him to me and I will mold him into one the best shinobi you could ever have. I will make him better than Dog made me. Surprising to see you so demanding, Talon. He understands, he's been well trained. Who trained him? I have no idea. Bullshit. Calm yourself, Talon. You may be head of ANBU since Dog retired, but speak to me with such a tone again, and someone else may take the position. It is odd actually. Dog wants to train him as well. The ANBU untensed. Apologies, Hokage-sama. But I've looked at his records. I can see the telltale signs of some meddling. Goodness knows I've done a bit of it myself when I induct someone, but even so. He's not even 16, is he? 13, and barely. Kemi. What is he? What I am about to tell you is an S-ranked secret Talon. S-ranked? Yes. He was born on the 10th of October, but that date 13 years ago. Oh. Orphan? Yes. But it's worse. I see. It's possibly the most stringent bit of covering up I ever did. Silences were bought or manufactured by Black Ops. I can't take all the credit. Danzo certainly did some of the dirty work. Well, most of it. I signed the documents allowing him to. Well, gave him permission verbally at least. So that kid, the one who kills, is in fact a Jinchuriki? You know the term? Impressive. I know there was a reason I chose you. So it wasn't my dashing good looks distracting all the Kanuchi then? I knew it was too good to be true. Your humor was a good tertiary reason, I assure you, Talon. They chuckled. So that's why he's been hidden. Who trained him then? Someone I trust. That sounds more sinister than it should be. Think nothing more on it. I won't. He knew Talon would follow the order, no matter how informal it was. So can I have him? Even with his condition, ANBU seems to be the place for him. Plus he has a sense of humor, even if he is a tad weird. You're the first to bring it out of him. I think he just saw the word play as another challenge. Even so, I can see uses for him. Can you let me take him on a mission? Well, he does need supervision and training at the moment. He currently is only receiving instruction from Anko. Outcasts with something in common now? They formed a connection on a mission. I'm happy if a touch surprised. Well, that means he should be getting used to poison. He's definitely assassin material. He is. I have worries though. His record seems to show his abilities are excellent. What worries could you have? I don't think he's stable, Talon. Look at tonight. He acted too much on impulse. He tries to stay several steps ahead, and tonight he just shot without thinking. Maybe it was the time restraint, but there is something wrong. He pulled out a document, mission report from a TNI mission he accompanied. He made 3 kills in that mission, all clean. But he seems to have a problem with screaming. And pain. A killer who doesn't like the sound of people in pain? At least he's not a psycho then. That sounds like a human response. He is only 13. Getting freaked out by the TNI teams at that age is hardly unlikely. Something goes deeper than that. He needs therapy. He needs people to talk to whom he can talk about anything. He has no one in that position he can go to easily. He needs medical attention, Talon. I'm not sure the ANBU schedule fits him. He's a piece in the puzzle that doesn't fit anywhere. I'll see what I can do to help reshape him then. I like him. Good luck, Talon. Just try not to introduce him too closely to Gibbon. Why ever not? Because he's stealthy enough that it takes me a minute to find him if I want to. Can he help us all if he becomes a prankster? Under the mask, Talon grinned. Oh, he knew what to do with this one. Chapter 13, Little Lion. Danzo put down his pen without looking up. He could feel the change in the air, that slight turbulence that another person caused. He could sense the chakra, suppressed and hidden like any of his shinobi would. He could tell, even in the darkness of his office, where the only light was directed to the documents on his desk. Naruto. Welcome back, Lord Danzo. He knelt before the desk. He had felt compelled to come back. To understand what was wrong. How are things in the light? Confusing. Danzo kept his face in the dark. How so? I keep remember my 3rd mission. The 3rd? Ah, yes. I recall that you encountered difficulties in that mission. I recall you overcame them and were successful. It is one of those difficulties I continue to remember. Danzo kept his face impassive, but he felt older than he had ever felt. He himself was remembering the first of the dark days when he had run the route. His first recruits expanding into his small but elite cadre of soldiers. Of the losses incurred and the rebuilding that he had had to do after one particular disaster with an ally he'd never work with again. He knew that dark deeds haunted ninja. Too many had to retire because they simply could not deal with what they had done. Depression was as much a killer as good enemy work. It was usually best if a ninja stopped before it took too strong a hold. If they did, there was a chance of them being able to work in the future, or to train, or to find a purpose beyond running missions. If they kept going like some did, accepting the symptoms, the consequences were dire. At best, they got injured when they weren't paying full attention, or performed badly enough that team leaders were able to see it in time and intervene. At worst, they actively sought death, or brought it upon themselves. He remembered the fate of the White Fang, and its effect on those who had known him. The loss of his skills after one failed mission had been dramatic, and spurred him on to remove such emotional deficiencies. He looked at Naruto, a boy of 13. Not so much a boy as a man now, a mature adult who weighed up decisions through the eyes of someone with world experience. Root shinobi were special because they kept emotion in check, or in some cases, entirely repressed. His way of raising them did that. Naruto had been a little different. Hiruzen had given him to be trained, and Danzo had done just that. Except Naruto had never had to kill a comrade who wasn't a threat, never had to go through what the other Root had gone through. His emotions were suppressed, but he could see the cracks in the barriers beginning to form. You must remember the mantras of control, Naruto. You must keep your emotion in check if you are to succeed. Squash the memories, and trust in yourself. Naruto nodded. You always have the seal, Naruto. It can lock away anything you want to lock away. Naruto shook his head subconsciously. The seal that adorned his stomach was something he kept hidden at all times. The seals surrounding it had been added when he had been young, and had uses beyond those that the original had. They were something which he never wanted to have or to use, not that he hadn't considered using it. If all else failed, he'd use it. But to just lock things away? He had tried before, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. A sense of revulsion gripped him when he tried. He knew how, but you never want to use it, do you? No, Lord Danzo. This is why you were never truly a full-root shinobi. Do not misunderstand me, you are amongst the finest I have trained, and you are one of my best operatives. But you do not use this one advantage that you have to become a full-root shinobi. It is why Hiruzen took you from the dark. I think of you as a son Naruto, but one I knew could never be me. I just feel that using it is wrong. It is the only dislogic I allow myself. The use of the seal would be logical, and I would be able to become a true root shinobi. I just believe it to be wrong. I feel. Danzo knelt down and put a hand on the boy's shoulder. You feel. That is not the root way. Tell me, what is the logic behind your statement? Examine your assumptions and test your theories. You know the answer, yet you deny it on a feeling. That is what makes you something different. It could make you greater. Naruto nodded. Now go. I can see in your eye that you haven't slept in days. Go. Sleep. He nodded and left. He made the journey home by rooftop, shadow to shadow and cover to cover on instinct. He slid through the window and shrugged off the cloak before collapsing onto the bed. Sleep came quickly, and was blissfully scream-free. He jolted awake when he heard the slight rustle from inside his apartment. That was unexpected. That meant somebody really clever was in the apartment. In fact, they were in his bathroom. After Baka's attempts at getting in, he had decided to modify various things about his apartment. The door hinges had been intentionally roughened and de-oiled, such that they squeaked at the slightest movement. It had been a change from his original specifications, which had them make no noise whatsoever. He had realized he would never use the door anyway, so might as well trap the thing. The roof tiles had been subtly modified as well to make noise, as had the window, as had the floor in various places only he would remember. There was very little chance of anyone being able to make it in, let alone be able to move inside his veritable fortress of an apartment. But someone was, no doubt, picking their way very, very gingerly through the apartment. He reached out and threw up his favorite shadow-enhancing genjutsu, tossed his cloak over his shoulders, grabbed his tanto, and slithered silently to the door, and waited. The figure was definitely clever. They knew they had made a noise and had deliberately waited several minutes. He knew because he was now watching the figure through the wall. His eye had some advantages. They were definitely skilled. He could barely see the chakra they were suppressing as well as he compressed his. They were armed with a short katana blade and a variety of other equipment, but that only confirmed the obvious. The black armor plates and mask meant this was an ANBU. It also meant that it was Talon. Why was Talon breaking into his apartment in the dead of night? He swiftly checked outside. There were two more figures in the trees. He strongly suspected that they were Pig and Hare, so either this was them playing a prank, or he had a new test. Or a new mission. Well then, best to make a good impression. He waited for Talon to move. When he did, it was beautifully done. Talon opened the door noiselessly, then moved through the door with his hands already going through the signs for a jutsu. They stopped when he felt the flat of Naruto's tanto against his back. Naruto got the impression from his body language the man was laughing silently. Nicely done. What jutsu was I about to use? None. Even if my blade isn't made for it, it would gut you before your jutsu happened. What if it had already been done? He vanished and pressed his sword into Naruto's neck. His voice was a satisfied whisper. You didn't see that coming, did you? I hit the genjutsu when I came through the door. You let off a little bit of chakra before I did. That gave me your location. You'll have to do better to outdo an ANBU captain. The Naruto he held captive vanished in smoke, and there was the click of a crossbow being aimed in a deliberate fashion. You talk too much. I saw through the genjutsu, and the chakra you saw was for my clone. Talon whistled. Well, that is impressive. What jutsu am I about to use now? None, because the crossbow bolt will remove your higher brain functions. Try. Naruto's hand punched the trigger, sending the bolt slamming into a chair that was suddenly there instead of the man's head. He felt the tip of the katana pressed against his back. This time his actual back. Wrong again, even though I didn't actually think you would pull the trigger on me. The extra signs, although unnecessary for me to use the Karuimi jutsu normally, make it much easier to use at speed. At my whim. Now then, any other tricks? Talon heard the rustle as Naruto raised an explosive tag. That struck him as a little extreme, and as Naruto has been willing to shoot him to prove a point, so he decided to back down. The sword tip was withdrawn and the tag quickly stowed. You would really kill us both? Better than just me dying. Go out with a bang. You have a crazy streak right there. I like it. It would be the right decision. What if you could stall until a teammate came to save you? Oh, didn't consider that. I'm usually alone on missions. In which case I'd see how close they were and make a judgment. Attaboy, you're learning. Now I'm not just here for shits and giggles, you're coming on a mission. Put on this mask. The man tossed him an ANBU mask. He checked the animal on the front. It was adorned with the features of a lion. He felt oddly cheated. Put it on, lion. You roll with the ANBU. You damn well look like one. He snapped the mask in place and pulled up his hood over it. In the dark of his apartment, you couldn't actually tell the mask was on in the first place. Now let's get outside. I assume you're already packed for the mission? Yes. Ah, good to know I was right. I'm sure your house will look after itself. What with the roof modifications, the fact the door is probably booby-trapped, and don't think I don't know about the little modification you made to the lock. That is going to get someone hurt if they're not careful. Naruto couldn't help but find himself feeling at ease with the man. His demeanor, his body language. It was that of a professional. Shame he was as eccentric as the rest of the shinobi forces seemed to be. Somewhere there had to be a remotely normal shinobi in the regular forces. They landed outside where Hare and Pig were waiting. He pulled them into an awkward bear hug by their necks. Ah, the team is back together. Pig snorted as he escaped the hug. We were only apart for 20 minutes, Talon. What took so bloody long about getting the kid? I wanted to test him. He's a lively one. Looks quiet to me. You sure he's lion-hearted? Don't make a meal of it, Pig, or it'll end up in chops for you. Hare just sighed. Enough of the terrible wordplay. Get to the damn briefing. Talon elbowed him gently. You love it really, Hare. Don't lose any hair over it. The sigh got deeper. Naruto realized this man was the most eccentric he'd ever seen. Even Anko was a little more sane. He wondered if this was the worst he would come across. He couldn't help but feel it wouldn't be. Right then, we'll brief on the move. We are elite. They moved to the rooftops and began to make haste. Naruto realized that, despite their appearances, they were all quick. And good. Very good. He forced himself onwards to keep up with their pace. As they went, Talon spoke into the radio piece the team was linked by. Despite the distortion from the radio as they swept out into the forest surrounding Konoha, his voice kept the same odd enthusiasm in it. Right, turns out the Chunin exams, remember them, lads? Our year was piss, wasn't it? Right. Turns out there's been a spot of bother with. Naruto got the feeling his channel cut out at that moment for less than coincidental reasons. Aru. Of course, the old dog called it, and so we know he's in the area. Our job is to find him and track him, hopefully to his base of operations. If we're lucky, he won't spot us. Very lucky, he'll wear a target on his head and let us kill him. However, there's a good chance that if found, we're gonna have to fight our way out of it in what we know as a tactical retreat. The information is vital, so let's get it right. So track, mark, and return. Any questions? Pig's tone cut through into his ear. What if we encounter resistance that isn't in the form of... It cut out again. That was annoying. He did not like being kept in the dark. If he wanted to be in the dark, he would stay there. Make bitch? Anko is not on this mission. You know damn well who I mean, Talon. Oh, you need to be clear about these things, Pig. In that case, kill only if you can hide it. No alarms, no shock and all. If you can capture someone who won't be missed, that would be handy, but makes our exit a lot more difficult. Which I won't appreciate because of the fucking paperwork it'll mean I do. Then Gibbon can have more fun. He was sure he heard Hare sigh again. Never let him near me again when I'm doing paperwork. That mission, and the number of 516 forms I had to fill in after it because he kept intercepting them from my reliable messenger. Pig's voice was indignant. He was very distracting. No. The food was. You're just a pig. Hey, don't insult the weight. My clan needs it to fight, so that meant Pig was in a kimchi. He was a brute force user. Naruto factored it in. He wasn't used to planning for multiple people, but the more he knew about what they might do, the better he could work around his teammates. He knew that he should work with them, but working around gave him more freedom. Hare cut it out again. When you two are quite done, I have a question? Shoot. Does Anko know about this? She is currently in hospital because she found him during the exams first. You know what happens to her then? Ouch. Naruto was curious. What happens to Anko-chan? The radio went silent. Talon's voice was serious on the other end. Personal secret of hers, kid. Ask her yourself if you dare. There was more silence before Pig was heard once again. Wait, did you call her Anko-chan? She said that was what I should call her? There was a tiny moment of silence, then laughter from all three of them. Hare actually turned to look at him as they leapt through the trees. Oh, you lucky little kid, most of us only call her that if we want to die. Why would you want to die? It's an expression, lion. I ain't lying. Hare stared daggers, as much as you could tell with the masks on, at Talon. But the feeling was there. One more bad pun and I won't heal you next time you break your arm sparring. So Hare was a doctor. A leader, a brute, and a doctor. And him. An assassin specializing in stealth, genjutsu, range and silence. An interesting balance. Oh Hare, you wouldn't want to bet on that? Touché. The ANBU's playful, if sometimes extraordinarily dirty, banter continued the entire way towards the area where his appearance had been marked. Naruto heard words he never heard used before in contexts he never heard used before, and tried to work out what exactly certain words were meant to mean. The trees began to thin, and a rockier landscape near the border with the minor villages began to emerge. He heard Pig's voice through his earphones. Kakashi takes him to train out here? This Uchiha kid is very high maintenance. Talon's voice sounded jovial, but Naruto thought there was something more to it. You're telling me? I've seen the records. He's kept a couple of ANBU busy over the years watching, and recently 8 of my men guarding him were killed. 8. And we don't know who or why. We assume it's our quarry, but even so. It is bad. 8, you serious? Very much so. Damn. This kid is definitely more trouble than he's worth. Why do we keep him around? Because he's the last of his clan. We're humanitarian bastards like that. His clan has a dojutsu that is considered ridiculously valuable, and he's considered a prodigy. Oh. That. The voices tailed off as they reached the area. Night was beginning to fall, and Naruto activated his Byakugan to see more clearly. He saw a small dog a couple of 100 meters away. I can see Pakin. Kakashi is dog, isn't he? You're not meant to know that, kid. It makes sense. Why do you give people masks associated with their personality? Or in my case, why not another animal? Hokage's orders. Now let's go say hello to dog. Kakashi didn't look in the greatest of states. He had a sleepless look to him, like he'd been watching the entrance. His dogs didn't look in a great state or rest either. It transpired, after some of Talon's hidden supply of alcohol was borrowed by the man, that he and the dogs had been keeping watch since Orochimaru had made his appearance. Sasuke was still unconscious in the back of the cave where Kakashi had been sealing him, so guard was all he had been able to do. Right now, Talon was helping to relax him. So, how long left until the finals? 2 weeks, I think. I'm sure it won't matter if we're a bit late. You haven't changed, dog. Speak for yourself, Talon. Look at you, big captain now. How does it feel? Great. The paperwork? How did you live? I have a team of genin on continuous D-rank helping sort it with the backroom staff, and I swear it comes in faster than it goes out. I'm not telling you my secret. Definitely haven't changed, have you, dog? Well, I've had to mature now that I have a team to look after. As Lion will tell you, I am a wonderful sensei. Aren't I, Lion? Naruto wasn't entirely surprised the man had recognized him. Then again, he was still wearing the same cloak as before. In fact, he looked exactly the same. He wasn't used to this many people meeting him more than once. He marked that as an observation he would reflect on later. Yes, Talon chuckled. Is that a yes, you are indeed, you magnificent son of a bitch? Or a yes, but basically no, the latter. Kakashi sighed as Talon laughed again. Alright, dog, look after yourself, you hear? I will get the secret of your paperworking skills out of you yet. Ha, in the next life. The clapped hands before the ANBU team moved out in the direction Kakashi had given them. Kakashi turned back to the cave to find Naruto standing there once again. Your secret was shadow clones, wasn't it? Yep. Kakashi smiled as Naruto's clone disappeared from view. The boy was exceptional. He found himself once again wishing that he was Naruto's sensei, and not Sasuke's. They were both oddly similar. Both could rightly be considered geniuses. Both had dark pasts, at least you had to assume that with Naruto, but no child became an assassin without some sort of dark past. Especially one that didn't show up on the official records. Both were orphans, both were perfectly happy to kill, yet in every way they were different. Naruto was a soulless machine, who did the job and nothing more. He got the kill, he was professional. He was polite. He knew his skills and his place and stayed there. Sasuke was entirely different in that regard. He was arrogant, brought about by his own skills being greater than those of everyone around him. He was driven, so driven by hatred. But he was effective and creative. They weren't light and dark. No, one of his other genin was the light. Naruto was the blend of the two. The gray. The ghost. He heard a groan as Sasuke regained consciousness. Time to keep training then.